Okay, here we go.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Sarah,
And I'm Tiffany.
and this is the Clean Romance Podcast. We're going to break down 5-star reads, hot button topics, and what makes clean romance shine.
We're really excited for our mini episode today. This week is Easter week, and so we wanted to talk about what books we've read that point us to God. And so we're sharing, our favorite books that help us feel closer to God. And we want to know for you, what books have pointed you to God? What books have you read that when you're done, you feel closer to God? Let us know on Instagram at the Clean Romance Podcast, or pop a comment wherever you're listening on YouTube or wherever you're listening and let us know.
All right, but we did decide, because we were debating, we're sticking with clean romance books on this. So, because I was I was gonna say some memoirs. I had this whole list of books, and then I was like, no, we're the Clean Romance Podcast, so we're doing clean romance books that make us feel closer to God.
Yes. And I will say, there's a lot of amazing nonfiction books that draw us closer to God, but there is something special about fiction that can get to us in a way that nonfiction can. And I think it's because when you're approaching fiction, your walls are down a little bit more. And so I do think there's something about fiction that can help us receive a message that we need to hear when we're not expecting it. And I think there's something special about that. And anyone who knocks fiction, and especially romance, I'll put my dukes up. Like we'll battle this out, because I really feel strongly that fiction can impact people and change people's lives and perspectives and help them get closer to God.
I 100% agree. All right,
so
are we ready?
Well, I'm gonna share this week's book sponsorship. So book sponsorships, they help keep our show running while giving us a chance to share with you about more clean romances to add to your TBR. And this episode is brought to you by The Game She Hates by Ella Marie. And I had the privilege of beta reading this book. Ella is a friend of mine, and I really love this book. And we picked this book for this episode because I absolutely believe it is a book that can help draw people closer to God. So I'm going to read the blurb for you all, and then I'm going to tell you how to find this book. Zane has had his fair share of a tumultuous childhood, and on the ice as the center of the glaciers, he releases pent-up anger and frustrations from the relentless blows life has dealt him. Off the ice, he avoids his teammates and dismisses anyone who tries to show him affection, especially women who are only drawn to his fame. But everything changes when he meets Pearl. Instantly captivated, he sets aside all his reservations and pursues her relentlessly, despite her clear rejections and disdain for hockey. Pearl desperately wants marriage, commitment, and a man who shares her faith. Definitely not a handsome, charming athlete like Zane, who doesn't believe in God and has women all over town swooning over him. She is done using dating as a mission to convert guys to Christ, only to end up hurt. As Zane persists in trying to maintain a just friends relationship with her, he begins to question whether healing and grace can be his portion too. Meanwhile, Pearl struggles to fully trust God and his will as she continues to grapple with past disappointments. Will their friendship blossom into love, or is the distance between them too vast to bridge? The Game She Hates is a Christian hockey romance that intricately weaves an inspirational love story with strong themes of hope, healing, forgiveness, and the transformative power of grace. So thank you so much, Ella Marie, for sponsoring this episode. You can find her books on Amazon, on Kindle Unlimited, and paperback. The link for that will be in the show notes and on our website at thecleanromancepodcast.com. All right, now let's get into our 5-star reads. Our whole episode is going to be 5-star reads today.
I am really excited. Some of these are repeats if you're a regular listener of the show, but like you said in our intro, I love a fiction book that points us to Christ. And so we're just going to like quickly share some of our favorites.
Yes.
So our first series that we're going to be sharing, Tiffany and I realized we both chose it. So we're going to share it together. And then after that, we have our own separate books that we'll talk about. But our very first series that we are going to talk about is the Mark of the Lion series by Francine Rivers. Tiffany, do you want to start out gushing about this book series?
Yes. So this book is about Hadassah, who, and this is a historical fiction, takes place, I want to say, like at the end of the 1st century or beginning of 2nd century, when the Jews and Christians are really being persecuted by Romans. And so this is a young Jewish girl who is taken captive. She's in slavery to a wealthy Roman family. And it's just her navigating this hardship and navigating it with faith, but with faltering faith. Like she's, going through, as you would expect, the ups and downs, the emotional roller coaster that she's going through. Like her whole family has passed, she's being persecuted at different points, and it is very intense at times. And I will say that you have to read the second book in the series. Like, it ends on a particular note, and you absolutely 100% have to read the second book to get the full story. So, that being said, this book is so inspiring, like how to have faith in hardships. I don't know how else to describe it other than that. And also, I feel like it's a beautiful testimony to being willing to share the gospel no matter what. And really sharing your faith, even when your faith is faltering,
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, she spends a lot of the book feeling like, how out of my whole family am I the one that's left? Like, I am the one with the weakest faith.
Yeah.
And how is God going to use me? And it also is a testament to, I think a lot of times we feel like we need to be a missionary or we need to be a preacher or something to impact people's lives. And it shows how Hadassah, God uses her as a servant, or I think a slave would be the better term. So it's just a beautiful story, and there is romance in it. So an incredible romance, and it is just so good. Highly recommend the Mark of the Lion series by Francine Rivers.
Yes.
All right.
So
Tiffany,
good.
do you want to share next?
Okay. Yeah. My next book, again, I've already talked about this before, but I'm going to talk about it again. So it's Bram Baxter Marries the Wrong Sister by Letitia Sexton, who we recently had on the show. And it was a really interesting episode on dark romance if you haven't listened to it. But I actually avoided this book when I first heard about it because I thought it was like a weird love triangle thing or something. Like, I don't like that, where it's like, I dated this sister and now I'm marrying the other sister. I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. But then someone I trust, actually Ella Marie, was like, no, this book is so good. You have to read it. It's a marriage of convenience, but approached from a truly Christian perspective, like with the sanctity of marriage intact. Not like, oh, I'm going to marry you for a time and then we're going to get divorced. Like, no, I am marrying you. And even though I'm not in love with you, I'm following God's will, what he's calling me to do, which is so interesting. And it really is an example of messy faith and following God's will and submitting to him and his timing. And there's some messy parts of it. I'm like, I can't believe Letitia wrote this in there, but it's so real and it's so good. And I love it. Highly recommend that. Bram Baxter Marries the Wrong Sister or Wrong Girl? Oh my gosh.
Sister, because they were sisters.
Okay.
Yeah, I read it too. Okay, so my next one is A Million Little Choices by Tamara Alexander. This is a rekindle romance, a marriage restoration book. Now, I will say this one goes pretty deep and I would say dark for a while. So if you tend towards rom-coms, I'm not sure that this is the story for you, because it does get really intense and you start thinking, how are they going to survive? Like, how is this marriage going to survive? I know that it is, because it is a romance, and that's what happens in a romance, is you have a happily ever after. But it looked so bad for so long. But it was such a beautiful story of restoration and of both characters having to have their own walk of faith before God could restore the relationship. So, A Million Little Choices by Tamara Alexander.
Nice. I love that. My next one is Falling for You, which is the second book in the Bradford Sisters series by Becky Wade. And this one, I don't know, it hit at a special place in my heart. The sister had previously dated a man that was not a Christian, and she was, and they had premarital relations, trying to like keep it PG on the show. And it's their like second chance, and her dealing with the guilt and the shame that she felt from the decisions that she made previously, and then really for the first time coming to figure out God's grace, which really resonated with me, because I felt like it wasn't, until I was an adult that I really grasped like how much God loves me and how big his grace was, even though I grew up my entire life hearing about it. And when I read this book, I had one of those moments where I literally put the book down and just like put my head in my hands and like cried, like, thank you, God, for your grace, for your love. And it was a really powerful story, not just of forgiveness and grace, but of self-forgiveness, which I feel like I particularly have a hard time with, And so her story really resonated with me a lot.
Okay, and what was the title again?
Falling for You.
Okay.
By Becky Wade.
All right. That sounds so good. Okay, so my next, and this is the last one that I'm going to share, is The Life After series by Julie Hall. So this is a 3-book series with like a side novella from the guy's point of view. It is, so the each book in the series takes you through a member of the Trinity. And so the main character is meeting and getting to know a member of the Trinity. So on that sense, I was fascinated, yes, because I felt like I got a greater understanding of the Trinity, of, of God the Father, of the Holy Spirit, of Jesus through this series. Every time I finish a book in the series, the first one, it makes me want to just draw closer to God. It makes me want to get on my knees and have a quiet time. And then in the last book, one of my all-time favorite fiction moments happens where everything has just fallen apart. She is like, why? What is going on? She's in deep depression, and Jesus comes to her room. She's on Earth, so it's Life After series. Wow. So you can guess Life After, but she is like on Earth, a living human, and Jesus comes to her bed in the middle of the night. He comes and just sits with her, and she cries with him. And it's the most beautiful moment of, when you're just really struggling with something, and just to see like how much Jesus loved her, and how she finally found rest and peace through this horrible, horrible situation that she was going through, because Jesus came and sat with her. And I think about it sometimes when I'm going through really hard stuff. I think like I kind of picture that in my head, that like Jesus is sitting with me, because I had that picture created for me through this novel. So I love that series so much. It was Julie's first series. So I've gone back and I've read this series multiple times. And the most recent time I read the first book, I was like, okay, I can see that it's a first ever written book. There's, it's not perfect. It's not perfect, but the story is so good that I don't care. Like, it is just such an impactful, beautiful story. And it's also like a YA fantasy, and you just can't put it down. I mean, you just devour the whole thing. So, Life After Series by Julie Hall, 10 out of 10, highly recommend. Always draws me closer to the Lord.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. My last book that I have is All the Things That Come Between Us by Sarah Hickner.
I'm going to cry.
So this book is like, I want to say, an ordinary faith kind of book. You know, like nothing super drastic is, like Hadassah is like a slave in ancient Rome, and like people aren't like dying and falling apart. It's like, this is real life Christianity being played out, in a way that feels so real. And I think that's what makes it really powerful, is that we can relate to it so intimately. And I think that her trail ride where she has her epiphany, that was so powerful, because it's just like, I feel like I've been there before, where you're struggling with something and you don't know what to do. You're running away. And then finally you run to God and you pray about it, and he gives you peace and clarity. And you're like, oh, that's what I should have been doing this whole time.
Duh. Right.
Yeah. And I feel like that it's just what all of these books have in common, to me, at least the common thread, is it's a messy faith, but it's a faith. And I think like that is the story of the people in the scriptures. I'm reading through some Old Testament stories right now. I just read Abraham and Sarah, and I'm like, man, this is a mess. Like, he's saying she's his sister, and like she's sending her servant in to get pregnant by him, and like it's just a disaster. And yet they're in Hebrews 11 upheld as like in the hall of faith,
Right.
And what that tells me is that no matter how messy we are, no matter how broken we are, no matter what's in our past, God is for you. He is for us. He wants us to come to him. And even if our faith is as small as a mustard seed, like if it's there, that's all that matters to him. Like, he just wants us to come to him. And I hope for those of you who are listening that, this week with Easter coming up, that it's a time for you to connect with Jesus's sacrifice and what he's done, and that you can come to him no matter where you're at, no matter what you have done. He wants to be with you no matter what. And so I do hope that, listening to this and these books that we're sharing, that can help you connect with God and connect with his love and his grace and his mercy.
I love that. All right. That was great.
Is that it? Is that all we have?
Yeah, that's all we got. You want to wrap it up?
Yep. Thanks for joining us today on the Clean Romance podcast, where clean romance lives happily ever after. Wherever you're listening, follow or subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Until next time, happy reading.
Happy reading.